Hello, I'm going to talk in this video about the Falklands issue, which is an issue I haven't really mentioned before. I'd always sort of hoped it would fizzle out. If you're not, sorry, I'm just sorting something out there. If you're not familiar, in 1982, Britain and Argentina had a short but bloody war over the Falkland Islands, which are a group of islands in the South Atlantic. Now, from the outset, I'm just going to say I believe 100% they are British islands. They're British overseas territories, and Argentina has no claim on the islands whatsoever. So please be in no doubt about what my views on the matter are. I may not have enough time in this video to go into all the details I want to, but before I talk about the islands themselves, I'd like to just raise an issue about a report from Reuters, because this is what prompted me to make this specific video. I'd be going to make a video about the Falklands anyway, but this has prompted me to make a specific video. UK summons Argentine envoy over Falklands intimidation. It's from Reuters, and I'll give the link. Britain summoned Argentina's ambassador to London on Monday after masked men ransacked the offices of a shipping company in Buenos Aires, a move the Foreign Office alleged was aimed at deterring ships from visiting the disputed Falkland Islands. The Foreign Office said the shipping firm, agents for a cruise company, had been attacked on November the 19th, causing the cancellation of a planned visit to the island some 300 miles off Argentina's coast. Argentine President Cristina Fernandez has launched a wide-ranging diplomatic offensive to try and assert Argentina's claim to the islands 30 years after the Falklands War, angering Britain, which says that islanders want to continue to be governed by London. The Foreign Office, which labelled the shipping office incident a violent act of intimidation, said it summoned Alicia Castro, Argentina's envoy to London, after earlier invitations had been ignored. A British official with knowledge of the matter said Britain was concerned it had not received assurances that British-linked firms would not be attacked again. The official said Argentina was also worried the attackers may have state backing. I won't read the rest of the story, there's more to it there, but I'll give you the link. I'm just reading directly from the link. First of all, this is disgraceful behaviour by Argentina. Even if there is no state backing, and I believe there is, at the very least, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner should be showing herself to be a statesperson and condemning this violent act of intimidation. If she had any diplomacy whatsoever, and I don't believe she is a very good diplomat, but if she had any diplomacy whatsoever, she would be condemning this incident. Now, Argentina is wrong on so many levels with this, and I'd like to make a few points. You might think, oh well, he's British, of course it's going to be biased. Let me make this very clear. If I believe we were wrong, I would not be backing our claim. I am not a blind nationalist. I do not believe in defending Britain when I believe we are morally wrong. Now, when it comes to the Falklands, I believe Argentina is 100% wrong, and I'd just like to point out a few facts. The islands were a British jurisdiction before Argentina even existed. The only sort of claim they rest on is the fact that the islands are geographically closer to Argentina. Now, they are a long way from Britain, but that frankly is irrelevant, because if you want to go under the claim of geographical proximity, then you could expand that to almost any sort of territorial dispute. You could then make an argument that, oh well, Argentine land is closer to Brazil, so Brazil's going to claim Argentina. Or, you could extend that to any sort of, but it's a very phony sort of claim. There's some factors Argentina stubbornly ignores. Number one, the people themselves, the 2,000 or so islanders, want to be British. That is a democratic mandate of the islanders. Now, Argentina loves to boast about how they're a reformed democracy. They went from a dictatorship during the last war to reformed democracy. And Argentina has went through a very difficult period of its history, the so-called Dirty War. There's been a lot of trials this year for that very difficult period in Argentine history. Um, in many ways, Argentina has reformed into democracy. I would argue they're not acting like a democracy because they're not respecting the democratic will of the islanders. And how dare Argentina think they can bully the islanders? And that goes for other South American countries who are sticking their nose into it. Um, when it comes to sovereignty disputes anywhere in the world, I always say, look, let the people decide. If the people of the Falklands were saying, stop interfering, Britain, we're Argentines, I would say, okay, we must respect that. Let them go to Argentina. This is the fact. The islanders themselves choose to be British. So this claim of imperialism is bizarre, because the definition of imperialism is to take land and to impose power from another country onto that land. But the people there are British people. They identify themselves as British. It's a British overseas territory. Their culture is British. Their language is English. It's a British overseas territory. They don't speak Spanish. We're not talking about a group of oppressed Argentines on the island. Let's just make this very clear, because Argentina is using this propaganda of, oh, it's the evil colonial Brits. Well, I'd also point out that's hypocritical, because most Argentines, many Argentines, including, by the way, President Kirchner, are descended from Spanish conquistadors who took South America by force, killing out the native population. And then you get ignoramuses like Hugo Chavez sticking his nose into it, simply because he wants to. He has no real stake in it. He just has a xenophobic attitude to Britain. I mean, he's taken his position by attacking the Queen. Well, sorry to disappoint you, Chavez, but the Queen has no political mandate. She can't make political decisions. So if you're going to attack British policy, at least target the right person, who would be the Prime Minister, who's David Cameron, by the way. I know you're ignorant when it comes to geography, but the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is David Cameron, not the Queen. As for Hugo Chavez, I suggest he focuses on Venezuela, because right now Venezuela is coping with one of the world's highest crime levels. Since he's taken office, homicide rates in Venezuela have went from 4,000 a year to 19,000 a year in a country of 22 or 23 million people. So I suggest that Hugo Chavez minds his own business and starts focusing on the very real problems that Venezuela has. Basically, I think the guy's a populist ass. I really don't have much time for him. And the way he's took hold of the Venezuelan media is pathetic. Intimidated opposition. Any journalists who have dared question his rule have been intimidated. There's other South American countries who, once again, I'm very disappointed by Brazil. Brazil's a country I respect. Brazil's a country I want Britain to have good relations with. So it's disappointing that they're blocking British ships from their ports. Now, I suspect this is sort of about forming a sort of South American union. But I would say to other South American countries, we're not your enemies. Hell, we don't even want to be enemies with Argentina. We don't want another war. I mean, I don't. In the last war, 900 people were killed. Over 600 Argentines and over 200 Britons. We don't want another war. And the last time, young Argentine soldiers were forced to fight by a brutal dictator, Galtieri, to invade the Falklands. Now, there's many areas where I strongly disagree with Margaret Thatcher. I believe she was 100% right about the Falklands. And this is a significant thing. Even hard left opposition in Britain backed Margaret Thatcher on that. As Michael Foot said, I know fascism when I see it. Michael Foot, by the way, was a pretty hard left socialist leader of the Labour Party at the time. He was no conservative, and he would have been critical of British foreign policy in many ways, but he backed Margaret Thatcher on that because he knew it was right. And to this day, the Falklands are an issue that unites left, right and centre. You might have people in Britain who believe we were wrong in Iraq and Afghanistan, fine, but they will still back our foreign policy position on the Falklands. And that isn't blind nationalism. That is because they recognise the people of the Falklands want to be British. How dare South American countries dictate to us who those people should belong to? Now, I'm the first to admit we have an imperial past. We have guilt in our past. that is the past. The British Empire no longer exists. Despite what anti-British xenophobes like to make out, this isn't about empire, because the empire's gone. We know it's gone. We're not trying to reclaim it. But the Falklands Island isn't a colony. It's a British overseas territory with British people. You know? If these were oppressed natives, then you might have a point. But they're not. They're British people. And the only reason Argentina's taken an interest is because there's oil around there. That's probably the only reason. And I also suspect it's due to distract Argentines from domestic issues. You know, Argentina has high unemployment. There's a lot of issues with fuel prices, etc. She's not a very popular president right now. I suspect she's trying to distract Argentines. But it's absolutely disgraceful, some of the behaviour of Argentina over this issue, which has been extremely childish and extremely undiplomatic. You know, just before the Olympics, there was an Argentine athlete who ran over a British war memorial. This guy ran over a British war memorial, and when Britain complained, Argentina laughed it off. This is disgraceful. This is the sort of behaviour we are seeing from Argentina. I know whatever claims they have on the islands, I don't believe they have any valid claims, but whatever claims they do, they're not helping their case with that sort of action. And as for this claim that, you know, Britain's a bullying power, I would say Argentina is a big country. Argentina isn't a small country. Militarily, we have nothing to fear from them, but Argentina itself is not actually a very small country. It's what I would describe as a medium power country, and they're bullying a group of islanders in the South Atlantic. They're trying to force the islanders against their will. I have news for you, Buenos Aires. You're never going to intimidate the islanders. Never. And if you dare invade the islands, Britain does not want a war, but we're not going to stand by and watch British citizens be intimidated by Argentine bullying, or Latin American bullying in general. To other South American countries, I would say look at the background. You know, you're probably thinking, oh, we'll back Argentina because they're our Latin American ally. But look at the background of the Falklands. Argentina has no claim. And it's hypocritical to talk about colonialism from a president whose ancestors were Spanish conquistadors. It's just pathetic hypocrisy. Yeah. So, if Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner really does believe in a diplomatic solution, she will order an investigation into why these offices were ransacked. If she finds the culprits, she will punish them. But she won't do that. And you know, even when there were violent nationalist demonstrations against the British Embassy in Buenos Aires, she never condemned that. Now, if that happened in Britain, if there were violent demonstrations outside the Argentine embassy, I guarantee you the Prime Minister would be saying he doesn't condone it. And he would condemn it. And we would stop the violence. So why is Argentina sanctioning this? You know? We have a right to know that our diplomats are safe in Argentina. Right now, I'm not so sure that they are. This is disgraceful, cowardly, thuggish behaviour from a country that has no moral claim whatsoever on the islands. Now, what is the South American attitude to the islands? You know? You say you believe in democracy. Well, prove it. Prove that you believe in democracy and respect the democratic mandate of the islanders. And don't throw back Iraq or anything like that. That's a different issue, you know? This isn't about Iraq. For the record, I was opposed to Iraq, okay? This isn't about Iraq. And it's not about Britain being above criticism. It's about the fact that you have no moral claim whatsoever on the Falklands. And I'm sick and tired of Argentine arrogance on this. And you know, up to this point, we've been incredibly patient. We've shown enormous restraint. We have risen above this. But sooner or later, you know, Britain isn't going to stand by and take this for much longer. We don't want a war. We really don't. I don't. I'm sure the Prime Minister doesn't. We don't want a war. Because in every war, innocent people die. We don't want a war. And, you know, my message to Argentine nationalists is stop being so ignorant. Stop being so xenophobic. Argentina is a country I respect. You have a great culture. You know, you're a great country. So, rise above it, you know. Right now you're looking pathetic. You're looking like a childish, infantile country that's bullying a group of islanders who you have no moral claim over? None. Okay, I'll leave it there. This is disgraceful behaviour from Argentina, and President Kirchner should order an investigation immediately. The Falklands are British. Simple as that.